Welcome to Kdrama Divas, a podcast and community for passionate fans of Korean dramas. Join us as we explore the captivating world of K-dramas, discussing the latest releases, timeless classics, and everything in between. Whether you're a seasoned K-drama addict or just stepping into this addictive realm, get ready to laugh, cry, and fangirl with the Kdrama Divas. Welcome to the Kdrama Divas podcast. Today we are continuing our discussion of Queen of Tears. When we left off on our last episode, male lead Hyun Yu was standing there after just killing a wild boar that was about to attack and probably kill female lead Hae-in.
Such a good ending of the last one.
It was a really good cliffhanger.
Yes. All are, though. It was such a... it kind of showed his strength, right? At the end. It just kind of gave you a glimpse into mentally, physically, emotionally where he was at, because he just kind of stepped in and instinct took over, I think, just from his background and his training, and then his actual, even though he doesn't realize he still deeply loves her, his love for her.
It was such a great moment. And then after that, they're walking back and Hae-in trips and kind of stumbles. And of course, she sprains her ankle.
Right. And she doesn't, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she wants help, but she doesn't want to admit she wants help from him. Right.
And so then he's like, let me carry you, or am I being too dramatic? And she said, no, in this instance, it's okay.
And you can see as she's up, on his back that she's, or not on his back, but he's carrying her in his arms. She's enjoying the ride.
She is. It's one of my favorite scenes, really, because he comes walking from the woods and he's carrying her.
Yes.
And the crazy aunt, I love to call her crazy aunt, but her name is Pomja, but we'll call her crazy aunt. Crazy aunt is just looking at him and where have you been hiding him?
I think she was a little jealous at that moment. And then doesn't it cut over and also show that the brother goes running in and to the mom, and then they're all kind of looking at him like, whoa,
Do you remember that, though, the scene with the mom and the injury? So the female lead, her brother, goes running into the kitchen where the mom is. Okay. So he says, Hae-in's been in an accident, almost like a hunting accident. He doesn't really explain. Yeah. And the mom just takes off running. She doesn't wait for an explanation. And I loved that part because it was kind of some insight, because so far, Hae-in's mom has been really mean to her. Right. And they've hinted that she holds a grudge toward her for whatever happened with the other sibling.
It's like there's no maternal instinct or bond there.
Yes.
Right. There's a huge wall.
Yeah.
But it's like the moment she even thinks she's hurt, she takes off. And it was like, oh, good. There is something there.
Right. You don't see it much for, but yeah, you do know it's there. Well, and to back up is as they are approaching, as he's carrying her in, and the dad and the brother are trying to build a fire. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And they couldn't figure out how to build a fire. And didn't the dad say that Hyun-woo, he didn't have any issues building a fire or something like that? I thought that was hilarious. So then he puts all the lighter fluid on it and it kind of blows up.
It was funny. And I think the brother was like, yeah, but he grew up in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
Village.
Yeah.
They have to make
right.
After that whole scene, it becomes the dinner scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how the father is so thankful and grateful to Hyun-woo that he gives him a pheasant leg during dinner.
The whole family's there.
Yes, the whole family was there.
And it may not seem like a big deal, but it was.
Right.
He was never worthy enough to have it before. And it seemed it seemed really meaningful. And the way the father smiled at him too. Did you remember that part?
Yes. I think that there was a definite change in how the family, at least the father, is treating him after he saved his daughter. It's like,
yeah, I think it was a definite turning point in their relationship or the way they looked at him. Because even though he was perfect, he did everything perfect, and they knew that, there was still something going on between them. There was still a wall. So that kind of broke that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, some tension there. The dinner scene, though, you get to know the villain. I call him the villain or the bad guy, Mr. Yoon. Yes. They call him Mr. Yoon throughout the drama, so it's easier for me to just call him Mr. Yoon, too.
But what's his real name?
Unsung. Well, not his real name.
Well, yeah, his character's name. His yes, not his surname.
We're only dealing with character.
Yes.
Too many names.
Unsung, I think.
That sounds right. But so Unsung or Mr. Yoon, whatever. You learn more about his past during the dinner scene. He was an orphan and he got adopted by a family in the States. Yeah. And then the family ended up dying in some sort of tragic car accident.
Right. Don't you kind of wonder if there was something to that car accident, though?
Right. Because he just seems so evil already.
Yeah. Even at that young age, something was wrong. Yeah. So what happens after
that? Hae-in starts crushing on her husband.
Oh,
because of him carrying her, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
Love that part. So they have to share a room, which makes the male lead really uncomfortable. He's kind of scared.
Right. Right. And they're going to share a bed, right?
Yes.
Is that I want to make sure I'm not jumping ahead to a different
No, you're right.
Episode.
You're right.
He takes a shower.
Oh, yeah.
And she accuses him of trying to look like a young Leonardo DiCaprio.
He's a lot better than Leo.
Yes.
Sorry. My opinion.
So funny.
She's dramatic about it, too.
Yes. But she's so, can I say turned on?
And she's like, why do I keep thinking about earlier and him carrying me? And why does it keep playing in my head? What is wrong with me?
Right.
It's so funny because you can see she's totally still in love with him.
Yes.
Completely.
Yes. Smitten by his looks, for sure.
Yes. And she doesn't even realize it, really. She's like, what's wrong with me?
Right. I think she's trying to talk herself out of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're both on opposite sides of the bed, but there's a flashback to when they shared a twin bed.
Yes.
In his room.
Yes. Oh, that was a sweet scene.
Yes.
Very sweet scene.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because you think maybe they'll get closer, maybe they'll cuddle something, but it's like they're on the edge of the bed, both of them.
Right.
And you can tell she's sad though.
Yes, because she says, doesn't she say, do you want to cuddle or something? He's like, no, but they both want to.
Yeah.
You know?
He's more resistant just because he's like, this is over.
Right.
And he's made a decision in his head and he doesn't feel like he can go back on it.
Right. Well, and then back to the shower scene. After he showers, then she goes into shower.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's sitting in there trying to pull herself together. And I was surprised because then he goes in, there was water left on the floor and he knew she didn't like that. So I was very surprised that he just walked right in on her.
And that's true.
There was no hesitation. There was no, why wasn't she going, hey, why didn't you knock? Or I didn't tell you could come in. There was none of that.
I never even realized that until now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
interesting. What was he hoping to find?
What was she hoping to,
So as the episode evolves, you realize that someone, and I don't think we mentioned this the last episode, but someone had cut the fence and put out, not only cut the fence, but put out boar bait. There's wild boar bait.
Well, I think it was like corn.
Yeah. It looked like corn.
Yeah. Yeah. anything that a boar
But
would
it must
eat.
have been something that,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm making finger hearts at my husband when he walked by. And he likes it. Okay. So
Any attention.
he does love attention. You'll find out soon because he'll be on our podcast as a guest.
He should be, maybe, because he liked this one too. Maybe as we discuss some of the other episodes, maybe he should be on one of those.
Oh,
What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, I think he likes the idea.
He looks super excited
Yes,
right now.
I think so too.
So we'll see. We'll see if we let him. So, but yeah, you kind of learn that the wild boar incident wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes clear that the chairman's girlfriend and Grace,
Yes.
and maybe even High End's
Brother.
sister-in-law
Oh, yeah.
had something to do with it. You
Right.
kind of all learn they're all kind of bad.
Right.
And they all seem to be working together.
Right.
Yes.
Something's not right. But they're trying to hide it well. But,
Yeah.
But you know something's funky.
That's pretty much the hunting episode. But I mean, I guess as the episode 3 goes on, Mr. Yoon tries to weasel his way in between the male lead and female lead. Mm-hmm. And like whether it's setting up appointments and then between his, I don't know who he is, like his boss or friend, the store, the department store that she wants in her mall or whatever, setting up an appointment with the three of them, and then he can't show up for whatever reason. And he's just really manipulative.
Very, very. Because you know that those meetings never existed. It was just him finding an excuse to spend time with her.
Yes. And on one of these instances, he brings up the hunting trip. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but he's talking about as great as Han thought that Han Yu was, Mr. Yoon says he hesitated before he shot the wild boar. And
I love this
terrible part. Like, it's just mean. Like, he's trying to plant seeds of doubt.
Because it wasn't even true.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't true. But he said, I was watching him and he hesitated.
I love that.
I do
part.
too.
Han says, that's the difference between you two.
Yes.
You were watching him at that moment and he was watching me.
Yes.
I don't know what love means to you, but to me, it's not about being happy and whispering sweet nothings. Love is when you endure the pain together, when you choose to stay instead of running away. Even if they have a debt or something more than you, that you stick together. That's love, and he's doing just that.
Wow.
I love it.
I love it too.
And it also shows, despite everything, even though the male lead's in this place where he wants out and she doesn't know,
right?
She's committed still.
Right.
Even though it's painful, I think she's still in.
Right. So after that, the male lead's siblings know that he wants a divorce, and they have decided, his brother and sister, that they are going to do everything they can to kind of stop this from taking place. I think it is not so much that they are concerned about the male and female more than they are concerned about their own interests in the financial side of being married to the female lead. They came and met with the female lead, which it seems like that they really had not had any contact since the wedding. So them showing up, and then the security, the gal at the front desk won't let them in because they don't quite look to the caliper as someone who would be in her family.
They do not.
They do not. But the female lead happens to be walking by and recognizes them. So they kind of try to talk to her and are going to tell her what's going on, right? But thankfully, at the last second, somebody walks into the female lead's office and kind of cuts the conversation off.
And I was so relieved. I was like,
totally.
oh my gosh.
Totally.
Because he's no longer planning on divorcing her. He's just going to let her die.
Right.
Which is awful, by the way. Awful, awful. Hate this part.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah. So you kind of think, okay, we're past that hurdle. Everything's going to be fine. So fast forward a little bit, and the male lead sister and brother are having some food together, and she can't let it go. So she decides that she is going to text the female lead, right? So she texts the female lead, and I don't remember exactly what was said. Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly, but along the lines of like, please don't go through with the divorce. Right? Is that right, Mom? What do you think?
I think so.
So they're doing everything they can to kind of stop it from happening. And when all of this is happening, the female lead and the evil Mr. Yoon are having dinner together. And so she doesn't see it. They're busy drinking, and Mr. Yoon gets her completely drunk. And so then you see Mr. Yoon and the female lead coming, and the male lead is waiting outside the gate for them. And he realizes they had been together, that she's completely out of it. I mean, she's like I don't know, what word am I looking for?
She almost looks like she's passed out, but then she's like, I just mixed alcohols. I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So they go separate ways. The male lead sends the evil guy off. And so the female lead and the male lead are kind of walking into the house. And he, at this point, had found out what the sister had done. And so now he's trying to figure out a way to get the phone from the female lead so he can delete this text that's outing him about the divorce.
Yes.
Right? And this whole scene, I think, is great also. So he knocks the phone out of her hand, and at that point, does he realize that there's no, like, she's almost out of battery?
No.
Was it later that he realized that?
Okay. Yeah.
And why is she in the tree? Does she fall? I don't even remember.
I think maybe she's just
so drunk and out of it.
Maybe. But he kind of like runs, pushes it out of her hand, and kind of like falls into her near the tree.
Right.
And she's kind of looking at him like, what's going on?
Again, she's like, okay, bring it on, but doesn't want to admit it.
At this point, she looks at him. At this point, they're so close together in the tree. And she says, I've been wanting to try new things.
They kiss at the tree, and she starts kissing him.
So she initiated it.
Well, I think she did, didn't she?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she wants to try new things.
Yes.
That's right. Which isn't a bad thing. And he certainly didn't resist.
No.
I think he was.
I know.
He didn't mind it.
No, he did not.
But he did look shocked.
He did. But I think he was probably pleasantly surprised, but yet he had another agenda going on in his mind that he was trying to accomplish at the same time. So he wasn't sure what to do with his emotions.
I don't have time for this. I have to get to the phone.
Exactly. So I think that's where they end this episode, right?
It's true. It is.
Okay.
So after the kiss,
yes,
the male lead follows her back into the house, manages to delete the text because he guesses her phone password, which is, what is it?
1031.
Yes, 1031. Who wants to talk about that?
I will. My throat.
Poor Maureen is sick.
Anyway, you learn that she's had a miscarriage. Their baby was due on 1031, but she had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And so it was poor communication, really. And that's really what you find the entire time, because that's really what's driven them apart. The fact that they have not talked or communicated with each other.
Right. And especially about
the loss of the baby.
Right. Yeah. Because they were both so excited about it.
Yes.
That's what we learn in this episode 4. You realize
how sad.
Yeah, because they were so in love and so excited.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she was hurting and she wanted him, but yet she cleaned out the baby's room right away.
Yes.
And that hurt him. And so he wanted, so they both were hurt for different reasons, but yet, and then I love the part though, well, one, it's sad that that's the room he moves into, but then you see up on his ceiling, there's one star left with a smiley face on it that had been there. It was part of the baby's room that he had put on the ceiling. I mean, it was personal to him.
Yes.
And there was the one star that was left. So I thought that was a sad but sweet scene too.
And you just learn just a lot of insight. You're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Because throughout the first few episodes, you're thinking,
I know. You are.
Then it's kind of like, okay.
Right.
Now we kind of get what's happening.
Right.
And the effect it had on him when he realized her password was 1031.
Yes.
I think it probably started to make him think, hey, maybe.
Well, even when you remember when he was thinking of passwords and all, and he says, didn't he say something like it couldn't be or whatever, and then he puts it in and it's the password.
Right.
It couldn't be because he thought she was so cold and heartless.
Exactly.
And that she didn't care. But everyone reacts to pain differently, right? Everyone handles trauma differently.
Right. It was her defense mechanism.
I feel like the rest of this episode is kind of like picture Han-Yu and how his heart is changing toward Hae-in.
Right.
And he won't admit it really to himself, but he's just captivated by her beauty.
Right.
There's one point where he thinks she's going to kiss me again. It's like the next day she's like going to pick off a piece of lint off him or something.
That's right.
Looks at his eyes and puckers his lips. I'm ready for it. She says something like, you look nice today. And he just kind of skips a little.
Right.
During like the meetings they had at work, he like walks by and he's staring at her.
Right.
Kind of guessing like what her reaction's going to be. Oh, she's mad. Oh, wait, she's smiling. She's happy. And it was just so cute. It was so cute.
It was cute. And they walk out of the house together complimenting what each other are wearing. And I think they both seem like there was a little renewed hope there.
Yes.
But unfortunately that does not last very long because then as they're at work, right, he's watching her and he sees the female lead and the evil Mr. Yoon talking. And he thought it was such a special thing earlier when she had picked the yarn off of his shirt. And then he sees evil guy doing the same thing to her and kind of touching her hair or something, didn't he?
And he got really upset about the hair touching.
Yes, very upset. So I think, it was not long lived that, he had that fun feeling of maybe some renewed hope and love there.
What else happened around this time? I think that Mr. Yoon continues on his path. And he even shows up at their house for like sad weekend business meetings.
Right.
And the male lead is so jealous.
Yes. Is this the one where
remember he's outside?
Yes.
He passes by the window and the guy lowers.
It's just so crazy.
It's crazy because he's so jealous that the two of them are spending time together,
I know he is, but yet he doesn't come out and say it.
Right.
And even his friend. So I was so mean about his friend, but now that I've watched the whole drama, I'm not as mean about his friend.
Right.
But his friend, the attorney friend, is saying, you like her. Basically, like, you like your wife. You're jealous. And he denies it and denies it throughout the episode. But it's clear the friend knows what's going on.
Right. Even though he's still trying to discourage it, right?
Yeah, a little bit, because the male lead has been so miserable with the family. And so he wants his friend to be happy. And then you just realize more and more that in this episode that the matchmaker and the chairman, evil girlfriend, and Mr. Yoon, for that matter, they're all a team.
Right.
We don't really know why, but it seems like they're trying to take down Queen and take it over. And they're buying all this stock and doing these shady business deals, but we don't really know what's going on yet.
Right.
And really, I think all dramas where they're doing shady stuff with stocks and stuff, I don't really get it. It's over my head. I just know they're bad. They're trying to take over the company.
Uh-huh.
He who has the majority rules.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. My favorite part of this episode is the end. Do you recall the end of episode 4?
How did it end? I'm sure when
she went to the town.
Oh, that's right.
The husband's hometown.
So the male lead's dad is running for whatever to run the to run the little town.
Is it the village head?
Yes, the village head.
Yes. And he's in this head-to-head competition with some guy that wants to come in and take over, who's buying everybody lunch and at the restaurant.
Yes,
lunch.
Yes,
right, and dancing and partying and everything. And so,
and his apples. He has an apple orchard.
Versus
the male leads has a pear orchard.
Pear orchard.
Apples versus pears.
Yes.
They should have been oranges.
I know, that would be funny. But it's such a funny, like,
right? Because
like,
then
rivalry, political,
right?
Yes,
you know,
right.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and then the fact that the male lead sister, again, just has to be involved, but she's so concerned that she texts or calls the female lead. And we don't know that yet, but the female lead shows up.
Yes.
With truckloads of
like a full parade.
Yeah.
So they're having their like political debate, and it's the male lead's father's turn, and he's up there, and it's not going well at all.
No.
And then she's the hero because she drives in with all these trucks, and she walks in. She apologizes for missing his 60th birthday.
Right.
And she said, but I didn't just buy you a gift. I brought gifts for everyone.
Yes.
And then she had, I don't know, all these
cashmere scarves and
perfume, like all these name brands.
Belts. Wasn't it belts too or something?
Maybe so.
I don't remember.
It could have been.
Yeah. Maybe so. It was crazy.
And the food. It was restaurant regular food that the other guy in the town was doing. It was like lobsters and, everything.
Lobster and steak.
Everything high end.
It was crazy.
She totally outshowed him.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the male lead is in Seoul. He has no idea that any of this is going on.
Right.
His mom calls him and says, your wife's here. And so he takes off, like, I need to know why she's there.
Right.
He shows up and he can't find her. Basically, he goes on a big search, like, where has she gone?
Right.
And
because at this point, I don't think we've mentioned that she's kind of having blackouts.
Yes, we haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, and I think that's, her condition, I don't know. Maybe we haven't mentioned it all.
I think we might have when she was in the forest. I think on our last episode, we talked about why that boar was coming at her and she kind of froze then or whatever.
Maybe. But yeah, she is having these kind of blackouts, hallucinations.
Yes.
Where like she's just standing there and then suddenly it's winter.
Right.
And nothing's around.
Right. Right. She's like in a different place. She doesn't know where she is.
Exactly.
So before he shows up, she's rummaging through his things, finds an iPod. She's outside listening to music.
A pink iPod.
Yeah.
And her name is on it too.
Her initials.
Or her initials.
She doesn't see that right away though. But so she just goes outside and she blacks out. And then we don't know where she goes. And she comes and he's searching everywhere.
Pouring
for
down
her.
Rain.
Yes.
Of course.
Just like Washington right now.
So then she comes walking out and she's all muddy and doesn't have shoes on. And
yes, he finally finds her.
He comes riding up on his bike and sees her.
Yeah. He gets off the bike and he walks purposely towards her and hugs her.
Right.
And it's so sweet.
So sweet.
Sweet.
I loved it.
Yeah.
How he hugged her.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then, I mean, we're kind of going into episode 5, which is fine.
How are we?
Yeah, that's fine. So basically, after that, he takes her home, and the family's just so doting on her.
Yeah.
His family, they all care so much about her, and I think that she's not used to that.
No. And can I back up?
Yeah.
After he finds her and hugs her, and they're sitting there kind of, I think, gathering themselves together, they show the parents and the siblings had been out in the rain searching for her also, which I think, was so sweet because they were concerned.
She is actually on the back of his bike and he's pedaling home.
Yes. Those little details.
Mhm.
It's so sweet.
Yes.
So Han Yu, he takes her home and he bandages her wounds, puts ointment on her, all her little cuts.
Right.
And they're getting closer, and you think, oh my goodness, they're going to kiss.
Right, because they're in his room.
Yes.
With the scene like we saw before. So you're thinking, okay, this is it. They're going to get back together, right?
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yes.
But he runs away. Yes.
Well, you see him go outside and you think, oh, he's going to go stand by her window and open the window again and, and reenact what had happened in the flashback earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And he contemplated it. He almost did it. And then he freaked himself out.
He flees.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Yes. He runs off.
Yeah. He runs off.
And she's waiting for him because she's hoping that they will reconnect like they did before too. I mean, that's how I took it. And then she's like, she's so sad, and then she feels so dejected. And
so he runs off, and he actually goes to his brother's, and he starts drinking. And he's like, I can't go back home. I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake.
Right.
And it's so funny because the mistake, loving your wife is a mistake.
Right.
But he's so set on, this is it, we're done. So he stays out all night and
literally
then,
all night.
Yeah, literally all night. And then the female lead, Hae-in, you start to see more of the flashbacks of the baby situation, which we already mentioned.
Oh, I wanted to mention this.
What?
From the beginning.
What?
Oh, do you guys remember when he was with the psychiatrist in episode 1? Remember he sees his psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys know who that guy was?
No.
Yes, I know, but now I can't remember. I mean, I remember when I saw him, I was like, I know that guy, but now I don't remember.
And do you know who he was?
No, remind me.
It was his brother from It's Okay to Not Be Okay.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I knew him.
Now I want to go back and see the psychiatrist.
Yes.
Right.
That was him. And I don't know if I've seen him in anything since then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I realized, okay, I meant to say this at the beginning of this whole episode. Remember, so our first intro to this show, I said, I don't know how Mr. Yoon ended up on the hunting trip.
Right.
I got it all mixed up. When I watched it again, I realized the female lead's mom said, I'll drop the lawsuit I have against you if you bring Mr. Yoon on the hunting trip. It wasn't the male lead.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't even know why I said that, but
yeah,
I was like, oh, I got that wrong. So.
I think there's things that I think I know for me, there's a lot of things that I forget, or I think it was one way, but it wasn't. So
I feel like the rest of episode 5 is basically you see the female lead changing. Like she's becoming more compassionate and having empathy towards people, and she hasn't before.
Right. That's right.
Like little things like
the man with the baby in the hospital.
Yes.
Tell us. I don't remember that.
He sells juice, or what is it that he sells to someone there? And so she's making sure that he can come there every day. And she buys it from him too.
Because doesn't she overhear in the hospital that his baby is sick? and needs surgery or something. Is that
she
why?
heard from her secretary at first, though, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't
Yes,
remember.
but then she ran into him at the
Yes,
hospital,
she
right?
did.
I remember now.
Okay.
She did.
All right.
And she says, I want to make sure that I have fresh juice every day. And he's like so grateful. But then she said, I can't seem selfish. Bring enough for other people too. And so he wants to know how many.
Yes.
He says, I think 250 will be enough.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. That'll boost his sales.
He was in shock.
Right.
He says, thank you.
Right.
And it's something that she would have never done before.
Right.
Ever. But
Right.
she's changing. I will.
But anyway, I like it when that horrible customer or the couple, the terrible customers, she is changing how she even treats her employees.
Right.
Not that she's ever really bad to them, but she cares. It's like she does care about them.
Right.
And the one in particular, her mother has cancer. And so she remembers that. And this girl is being berated by this couple who want to return something that they bought months ago.
I think it was 8 months ago.
Yeah, it was really ridiculous. And they finally say they want to speak to the CEO. And she says, I'm her. And she tells the sales girl, call the police. And it's really good because it's almost like the couple are expecting her to say, something bad to the sales girl.
And didn't they say to the crowd that they're like, are you taping this or are you getting this on video?
Right.
Yeah. Because they think they're going to get some compensation for it.
Yeah. And so she tells her to call the police or call security or whatever.
And instead she stands up for her employee and tells the couple off, and it kind of turns the tide on the whole situation.
Exactly.
But it does show how much she always, like you said, she always cared about her employees, but she kept it close to her chest. And now she's kind of opening up and showing it more openly.
I don't think she would have done that before.
I think
she would have just stayed out of it.
Right. Right.
So, one other thing that happens during this episode too is that crazy aunt, by a stroke of chance, finds out that the female lead has a tumor.
Oh,
and so
that's right.
She's sworn to secrecy about it all, but she finds out, and then I'm just like summarizing it really quick because I mean this could be a 55-hour podcast.
Right. Right.
No, I don't know. I don't know if we talk about what we think of everything. But she also finds out that there's procedures she can go through in Germany, and it's like a 51% chance that she'll live.
Right.
And the male lead kind of struggles with that. Mm-hmm. He's like 51% chance, and he's struggling because he cares about her, but yet he doesn't want things to go back to how they were.
Right.
So. But there's this rift ever since she spent the night in his village all by herself.
Yeah.
There's this rift between them because she was thinking they were starting to rekindle things and she felt rejected. Right. So during that whole episode, you see her like putting up walls again.
Yeah. And, pulling back.
Yeah. And originally Han Yu was going to go with her to Germany, but she doesn't even want to be around.
Right.
So she goes to Germany by herself.
Which is sad.
It is sad.
Very sad.
Again, lack of communication.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Again and again. But at the end, she's in Germany.
She hears this voice.
Yes.
And then what happens? He appears at the top of the stairs.
You gotta love him.
You do. He does grow on you.
Yes.
I wasn't a big fan of him.
I know.
And then this is when it started changing for me.
Okay, because I was gonna say I felt like you were like, I'm not gonna watch this. I'm turning it off. I'm done.
I know. That's how I was so worried.
I know. So we all know I don't like sad.
Right.
And I've cried many tears over Queen of Tears.
Yes.
And, I don't like the male lead and how he's trying to manipulate her into changing her will. Things like that, it like deeply bothers me.
Right.
And I know it's just a story and I try to remain calm, but I'm like, I don't know if I can continue on. And I get all these feelings.
Right.
But,
and we just kept trying to say, hang in there.
Yeah. And it probably took me till episode 9.
That's a long way in.
Which maybe we'll talk about next time, because this podcast, I think it's gone too long today. I don't know. Are we done?
We've struggled today.
So I think that's all we have time for today, unfortunately. But we're going to continue on with this discussion because I think we all agree we love Queen of Tears.
Definitely.
So until next time.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Kdrama Divas podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as we did. Before we part ways, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on social media at Kdrama Divas to stay up to date on recent podcasts and to share your thoughts and recommendations.